Hello, my night owls and insomniacs. Welcome back to the Keep Me Up podcast. With you as always is Shane. That's me. For those of you who don't know, and everyone who has been watching, welcome back. Hope all is well. Say hello to my best friend Bals. Hi, Bals.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So, as you probably already know from the thumbnail and the title of this video, we're going to be reviewing a movie today. And Dave, you remind me of the Babe.
What babe?
The Babe with the power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
Do what?
Remind me of the Babe. As you can guess, with our very, very, very slow rendition of that song, we are reviewing the 1986 classic Labyrinth.
Now hold up.
And of course, I should introduce this by saying that Hold Up is this is the first edition of the new kind of like sub-series of the podcast called Hold Up, which basically the whole concept behind that is to take films that we love from at least 10 years ago or further and not go through it scene by scene per se, but maybe, look at it with an older eye than we have in the past. Because obviously when you watch things, they have a completely different meaning later in life. But you hold on to what they meant to you back then and through the years. And then just kind of see, ultimately, do they hold up to modern viewing? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Balls, what was your first that you can remember encounter seeing Labyrinth?
Just like when we reviewed the new Bill and Ted, I can't quite remember exactly when I saw it. I do remember seeing it as a child, though, and, I was always a bit scared at certain scenes.
Really?
Yeah,
Were you scared of David Bowie's cock?
No.
All right, well, we'll get into that later.
No, the scene with the four dancing guys singing and taking off their heads and then trying
the chill downs.
So, yeah, that kind of scared me a little bit as a kid. And then, when she gets thrown into the oubliette.
The oubliette.
But she's talking to the hands.
We're helping hands, yeah.
That's little. She chose down.
She chose down.
The whole, music and and it just, I don't know. It kind of, was a little scary as a kid. But not like, I can't watch it.
Yeah.
And, of course, when she cries out to the Goblin King to take her brother away, and then that's a little bit of a scary scene too. But
it kind of is, because you got all these muskrats, these goblins, like hiding in the bedroom and all that stuff. So I guess as a kid, yeah, you're always scared of the boogeyman under the stairs.
I'm scared of the dark as a kid.
You're probably still afraid of the dark, aren't you?
No.
But what's the bad part about a stupid thing to do is when you you probably don't do this because you're not into social media or anything. But when you go online or even YouTube and find those scary videos in the middle of the night. Obviously you live with your family, with your wife and kid and mother-in-law, but here by myself, I'm watching these stupid videos of like last night there was this video of this person who was in the woods and some person in the woods knew that they were there and they just start screaming like they're going to kill them and throwing stones at them. And I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't be watching this 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, so a scene like that in Labyrinth definitely rings true.
My computer's in the basement, so I'm usually, on my computer till midnight or so before I go to bed, and I'm by myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I swear I feel like somebody's watching me.
Well, you're a city boy, so being up in the boondocks now, it must be a little scary.
Yeah,
One day I'm going to get your address and show up and scare you. I don't know. I know you'll probably kill me. Anyway, so I think my first time with Labyrinth, I remember hearing about it. And, but I guess it had to have come on HBO because I remember our families had that switch box. We had the bootleg. Someone at our elementary school hooked our parents up with those bootleg boxes for HBO. It was VHF. No, it was UHF or something like that.
Yeah.
And you get to show me. You can watch. I'm pretty sure I saw it then. And then, yes, Hannah, you want to talk about Labyrinth? Yeah. And then I know that I don't know how I got a copy of it. I had a copy on VHS that you used to borrow at least once a year to watch. I remember that. And we both loved the film a whole lot. And I just know that was Yes, baby girl. And now I've graduated to the DVD, which I need the Blu-ray now.
I feel like I have a DVD too back here somewhere.
This is the collector's edition that actually, which is falling apart. Which actually, Shem got me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Our friend Shem, and it's pretty cool. And I'll show some more of the cool stuff that's in here in a little bit. So I mean, of course, we have to talk about the man behind all of this, the late great, amazing Jim Henson. So, you know, everyone's a Muppet fan. If you're not a Muppet fan, you're not alive. You know, I mean, but what I loved about this was that, yes, baby girl, this is his second experiment with a darker side and more lifelike Muppets and animatronics and whatnot. Obviously, after the Dark Crystal, which was a little more serious than Labyrinth. Labyrinth's a little more fun and lighthearted. But for me, this is my favorite of the two. But it was definitely something that hadn't really been done before, as far as I'm aware. What's your take on the innovation of Labyrinth?
I mean, you know, as a kid, you're kind of blown away by it all. Like, you know, to you, you don't realize, you know, sometimes fake things look fake, but yet it seemed like they're really, even watching it. I watched it about 2-3 weeks ago, I think it was, with my daughter. And, I mean, it still held up. It didn't look as fake as some other stuff that you could totally tell is fake.
Absolutely. Like, you have in the opening credits is like that really crude kind of like computer graphics of the owl flying around, which that doesn't particularly hold up, but for its time, it was like, oh, okay. It was like a step above Tron. So that I feel like doesn't necessarily hold up, and some of the things on the staircase, like the MC Escher inspired staircase that they used a lot in the trailers to kind of like promote and be like, look at this, a man's walking upside down. He's flipping over, and you can see how stiff he is coming over and whatnot. But I don't know, what other parts of it do you think hold up as far as the special effects go?
Well, I mean, it's Jim Henson, so he used, you know, puppets, animatronics and stuff. You know, as I was watching with my daughter, I'm trying to tell whether was that, you know, a little person in the costume, or was that just a straight animatronic? I mean, I couldn't really tell. You know, there's some scenes where they're using the real dog versus not using a real dog.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So, what?
I said we'll get into that.
Yeah. So I mean, even the story itself I like the story itself as a kid, and even now as an adult.
Yeah,
I think it holds. You know.
I think the story does, but we'll do our final analysis afterwards, obviously. Yeah, I mean, definitely. You know, I think this is technology that carried over into obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and a slew of other things. Now, you know, characters are all CGI. There's very, very little animatronics built for anything anymore. But you know, you had. You know, I don't know if it was a little person or a child in the Hoggle suit, and obviously they had a grown person in the Ludo suit. I think Dynamis was a Muppet, but yeah, definitely that combination of puppetry with animatronics was, you know, state of the art at the time, and my opinion still looks better than a lot of the CGI you're going to get nowadays. I mean, it definitely looks better than Jar Jar Binks, which is 20 years old. But it also, maybe not Gollum, maybe not Caesar, but Transformers, this, that, and the other thing definitely looks better than all that. Hannah, what in the world are you doing, girl? So let's get into the characters. And the main character of the story is Sarah, played by Jennifer Connelly. I mean, I'll start with Sarah. I was head over heels in love with her. I'm still in love with Sarah, just in that mind frame of being 7, 8 years old when I saw it. And of course, she was like 14, so she's the older woman. I'm not drooling over a 14-year-old, but at the time, I was just like, oh my God, she is like a goddess. But she is a very flawed character, which is so rare nowadays to have a woman protagonist who is anything but perfect, who is anything but a Mary Sue. It's very, very rare. And you see it through, you know, Rey in Star Wars, Burnham in Star Trek, the new Mulan, so on and so forth. Sarah is a spoiled little brat.
Yeah.
She's a princess, and she wants to be a princess.
Fair.
It's not yeah, and she's so angry, but I mean, she's also a teenager, and teenagers are angsty and angry, but she's got this actress performer side to her that yearns for something more, yearns something bigger, and who feels isolated from the world. And that's something I could definitely, understand and relate to when I was a child. That you want to escape into this world. Her room is filled with Where the Wild Things Are, and like MC Etcher and all the Cats poster and all these different things that all play into how the labyrinth appears to her and that whole world. And that's the genius of the film, and that's what Jim Henson and George Lucas, who executive produced it, and everyone involved knew, was that kids who feel like they're a little bit out of place want to escape into their world of fantasy, and yet would they be mature enough to handle that? And Sarah at first is not, and I think it's a portrayal that you're only going to get in the 80s and maybe the early to mid 90s, because very quickly everything became over polished, and now everything's got to be perfect when presenting a woman, a young woman, as the protagonist. So I miss characters like Sarah.
Yeah, was she 14? Was her character 14? Was she the actress was 14?
I think maybe she was 15. I'm not exactly sure exactly, but I think it's around at the most 16 years old.
I mean, it doesn't matter either way though.
No.
Yeah, she's always crying that it's not fair, which is a completely immature thing, it's not my fault type, that's the way her character was. She has to watch her little brother, and it's just like something she doesn't want to do. She just wants to sit in her room and play. And that's the funny part. You mentioned all those little things in the, I guess it would be the second scene, because, it's right at the beginning though, but she's in her room, and I'm like, we're looking at it, and I was watching it with my daughter, and I noticed all those little things now that I, as a kid, was just like, and I saw the Cats poster and immediately thought of you, and I was like, oh, look at that.
Yes, I love to play Cats. I still haven't seen that abomination of a movie, but maybe I'll do an episode where it's like live reaction to that movie. Anyway, yeah. Because especially now you have a daughter, and so you're noticing all the modern day toys, and I'm sure I know you and Christina have given her older toys that a lot of kids nowadays don't get. Thank God, thank you. But
you got a Fisher Price farmhouse. When it opens up, the cow moves. Yeah, that's Christina's old one, so we gave that to Bella.
Did Christina end up giving her the old Sesame Street set? Remember the one I was always drooling over because I had it as a kid? She gave it to her?
She has it somewhere. I gotta find it.
Aww.
She has it somewhere. I gotta find it.
When she grows out of that, tell Christina I'll buy it from her. I told you. I want that on my collector's shelf. I want that behind me or somewhere. And then, of course, we have the Goblin King, the late, the great David Bowie as Jareth. What do you feel about Jareth? Yes.
Well, I'm not going to say I hated the way he played the character. I mean, I think it was a bit odd that he always had to have a bulge sticking out, but, it's definitely... I'm not going to say the movie is a musical, but there's song and dance in it. Very musical-like. And, he played his part and sang his song and danced his dance. I'm sure you're going to go... You are going to go more into him and the way he saw the role and the way he did it. I tend to take movies as is and look straight forward.
Yeah.
You tend to go deep dive right into it. But, this is, you tend to say... Well, you tend to look at how and why they're showing you the way they're showing you. Mm-hmm. And then most of the time, now that I'm older, I look at it I look at the frame, I'm looking at everything else.
The technicality of it, yeah.
Why they said what they did. And I'm not really, I guess that makes it so that I'm not really involved. It's kind of like how in music, I don't really listen to the lyrics.
Yeah.
How November Rain wanted to be played at my wedding, yet it's not a song about love and amazingness and happiness.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's what's great about, being able to do a review with you is that I'm looking at things from a technical standpoint as well, but also a artistic standpoint, the emotional standpoint, where you're like, you look at it, like what's going on in this frame on all levels behind the scenes, what had to bring that forward. what does this mean? How do they invoke that with that kind of like lighting or camera movement or set piece? Whereas I'm like, what's going on, in a more guttural sense. So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I did like Jared. I think he played
Jared.
Jared, sorry, Jared. Yes, the diamond dealer, right?
Yes.
No, he's his. I have David Bowie roles, so I can't really compare it to other roles he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But he you could tell he played on Sarah's weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
He knew she liked stupid little knickknacks and things and toys, and he played on that.
Yeah.
And he knew that she was tired of babysitting her brother and being treated like crap from her stepmother and all that. So the way the character was written, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was well. I mean, I'm sure you are going to say something completely different.
No, I mean, I'm a huge David Bowie fan on all levels. I mean, I know they had approached other actors, other musicians for it. I believe they approached Mick Jagger, or at least they had him in mind, and some other folks, because Mick Jagger had more of the acting career at that point than Bowie. Bowie had done The Man Who Fell to Earth and other roles as well, but he wasn't as maybe name brand for on film acting as say someone like Jagger was, and but. I mean, I know Bowie took this role and ran with it. He was very excited about doing this kind of work, this kind of theme for children, and bringing his spin to it. And just, he was absolutely immersed in all aspects of bringing Jareth to life from the music to the costume to the bulge, I'm sure, to the makeup, to the way he delivered his lines. And I personally can't imagine anyone else doing that role. The idea of Mick Jagger walking around and being like, Sarah, it's not fair. Nothing's ever fair. Well, laugh. It's just, and I love Mick Jagger and the Stones, but I can't imagine anyone saying, well, laugh. I mean, he's brilliant. And he does all these little things that again, going back to the bulge, I remember my mother and Kika, my sister's mother. I remember watching in Jersey once, and I just hear them go, "Do you think it's real or is it Memorex?" Which is a saying in the '80s. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about. Years later, I'm like, "Oh, it's the cock.
The bulge.
It's the bulge." So those little things that he injected into the character that make it timeless, which is something I feel like Henson did a lot of with the Muppets. Like, you can go back and watch the Muppet movie, The Great Muppet Caper, The Muppets Take Manhattan, The Muppet Show itself, and get jokes that we didn't get when we were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that is at 25 plus, you're like, that's kind of dirty, which I think Bowie had a great hand in doing even more so in this film. And I think Jareth is great. He's definitely obsessed with his balls, his crystal balls. Having your name be Balls, do you like the crystal balls?
They're not that great to wield.
You tried?
No.
Oh, yours are just that big, you're saying? Well, I remember back in like the early '90s, there was a special on PBS about the artist who was actually doing it. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he very accomplished. Juggler. I don't know. Manipulator.
Fondler. You could have said it. Sorry.
Fondler. Yeah, I don't know, but the crystal balls obviously play a big role in it in a very kind of like subtle way, where he delivers. The beginning of the film has the crystal ball and the computer animation, and he turns one to the snake that he throws at her, that then turns into like a goblin scarf, and then the invitations go out for the ball. So it's very it's mystical, it's fantasy. And, you're someone who is actually a little bit, you're more involved in the world of fantasy than I am. Obviously, I'm more of like a sci-fi geek. You, as someone who indulges in Dungeons and Dragons and LARPing and whatnot, you're actually way more immersed in that world than I am. So, like, how does Labyrinth speak to someone who is more in the world of fantasy?
It, the fact that there's like challenges throughout the whole labyrinth. I mean, that's what a labyrinth is, just a maze, a giant maze. But there's all these pitfalls and challenges and all this and peril on every turn, and that's, to me, that's what kind of keeps you like locked in. So, at the beginning there's a little bit of dialogue, but then it's just right into, here's the maze, here's what you got to do, and she's trying to figure it out every step of the way, and I think that's great. And yeah, I LARP, and when we do things, we have challenges thrown at us, we have riddles thrown at us, we have fighting we have to do, and you have to figure things out. You can't always fight your way out of situations.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing here, where she needs to figure things out. Ludo, huge, big, and she can't just beat her way through everything.
Yeah. What about the interpretation of different things, like having the fairies be mean and they bite you, and then certain classic tropes of fantasy, a labyrinth, goblins, riddles, fairies, you name it, kings and balls and like that. The interpretation of that, do you find it to be somewhat original, or what?
Well, I mean, I may get yelled at for this, but I was never really a fan of Dark Crystal as a kid. Mm-hmm. Now, I should kind of revisit it now that I'm older.
Same.
To me, it was a little bit more scarier as a kid. So, I mean, I don't know if he took anything from that movie into this movie, but, the one of us always tells the truth, one of us always lies, is like a common themed riddle or challenge that I've heard of before, but I can't really say I've heard of it before the movie. I mean, I don't think it's an original movie. I'm sure people are Googling it right now and can say, oh no, this is where it originated from, yada yada. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's from some type of book or something. But, I mean, I don't think that the challenges per se were copied off of things. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's got right at the beginning, it's a maze, and she's trying to figure out how to get through it. And, they're just like, it's an illusion. You're not looking. Mm-hmm. They're kind of teaching her right at the beginning to not act like a child, look at things differently instead of looking things for face value.
Yeah, that's very, I mean, you have it with the worm character who's like, no, never go down that way. And then she does it, and he goes, oh, she should have kept on going down that way. Would have went straight to that castle. And while everyone loves the worm because he's so damn cute, that's part of the I can't say non-linear or non-coherent, but just the ever-evolving world of something like a labyrinth in a fantasy setting where, as the movie always says, things aren't what they appear to be in this place. And I'll get into more about that when we have our final review of the film, whether or not it holds up. But yeah, like it brings in all those elements and then does its own thing with them, I guess. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, a little controversy.
Uh-oh.
I'm not quite sure how old Bowie was when he shot this. I'm going to guess somewhere around 40s, 50s. And then Sarah is around 14, 15, 16. And you have the meme of why with the two of them. It is a love story of sorts. She's very enamored with him. And he, just let me rule you. And you can have anything you want. And it's a love story. So that is something that in the 80s, people weren't as up in arms about that kind of taboo, whereas they are nowadays. So what's your take, especially as a father, what's your take on the fantasy film of let's average it out to 15 in love with 45 and vice versa, more so?
So in my simple mind, I don't think that Jareth was necessarily in love with her. I think he was just trying to say the things he needed to say to convert Toby into a goblin and, in essence, have her do his bidding. Because that's all he did was manipulate everybody.
Yeah, true.
He was a very good manipulator, and that's what he did. And he used his charisma to get things done. And, of course, threatened to, do other things. But I mean, I feel she was, as they say, as when you know it's someone of that age, that young, they say it's an infatuation. I think she was infatuated with him. She was infatuated with the whole uh, fantasy realm. I mean, looking at her room and all that fantasy stuff that she had, and all those, you know, the stuffed animals and whatever it was, and a little, forgive me, for, I don't remember the name of it, but the puzzle that has the mazes in it that you move, the puzzle that has, the maze in it with the little balls move around.
I can't remember the name either.
To get it. I mean, there's a very, it's very fantasy themed, her room itself. So I totally feel like she's infatuated with him. He knows that. She likes trinkets and toys and stuff. I mean, I don't think he's like, hey, little girl, I have a piece of candy. I mean, I really don't think he was going to, you know, he never said, like, we could rule, did he? Well,
I mean, he's, let me love you, let me rule you, just fear me, and I will be your slave. Now, I mean, yes, I see the point of it maybe just being a manipulation, but also knowing that fantasy and olden times, King Arthur and so forth, humanity has a long history in fable of the older man with the much younger woman. And
he didn't let us rule together.
No, because I think eventually he was going to discard her when the next younger, hotter thing came along, which is something I'll get. I have a theory about previous Sarahs or women like Sarahs. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I don't know. I don't think it's as naive as you make it out to be. I've always, from when I was a kid, I just always felt like he wanted her as his plaything for at least a while, and then he would discard her. I don't know. It's definitely interesting.
I don't see it that way.
I mean,
Watch it now.
Now you're gonna be like, fuck. Damn
no, I said when I watched it then, and when I watched it now, I
you
still
don't see it. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good. I don't know. I mean, I think that's why when I looked up to get images for this, that meme came up of why, because a lot of people, I think, also. I think it'd be interesting to see. Anyone watching this, comment. What's your take? What was your take before you heard Bals and my interpretations of things? What was your take before this review of Jareth's relationship with Sarah? Obviously, she's infatuated with him, but what do you think he wanted with her? I want to know what people think beyond you and I. I have a hunch it might be fairly split, but that's a good debate to have. And speaking of people who were involved in this film who have questionable histories with certain things, Kevin Clash was this is one of his first big films, who ended up going on to be the voice of Elmo and Master Splinter and whatnot, and he was someone.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Huh?
I said, oh boy, oh boy.
Is that your Elmo impersonation?
That's horrible.
Oh boy, oh boy. But he was in this. He played a number of the characters in it. And I just remember, long before there was any controversy with him, and literally within a few months of him shooting this film, when I was on Sesame Street as a kid, he played Hoot the Owl on Sesame Street. And I think it's possible that the first time I heard about Labyrinth was him talking to other Muppeteers when we were between takes, talking about their time on Labyrinth and something like that. Because for me in my mind as a 7-year-old or 6-year-old at the time, that was, or maybe a little bit before that, or maybe the movie had come out. I don't know. But they were talking about it. I don't know if the movie had come out yet. It probably had come out already. But I remember that. And so I automatically connect Kevin Clash, who has one pointy ear. So I remember being a Star Trek geek being like, oh, that's like Spock. And I remember him doing that. So I have like that 1 degree of separation to this film, which is really cool. Really, really cool. Plus, once I got to see David Bowie on the street with Iman back in the early 2000s. They were just walking down the street in Soho, and he had a mustache.
Everybody told me that.
It's like, oh shit, that's David Bowie. And that was it. So the other characters, obviously, I mean, not much of a character, but the catalyst for everything is Toby, which I find fascinating because, as far as I know, only one baby played him. And that's really, really, really rare to have not twins play a child, play a baby. I mean, I guess there's really not much else to say about Toby, but he's the catalyst for everything.
He didn't have much camera time.
I mean, nor should he. He's literally... I mean, how old do you think... I'm not as good with babies, like, as far as... I'm not around them as much as you have been. How old do you think Toby was at the time?
I mean, at first you think... you think maybe a year, maybe 2 years, because he's... You know... He kind of walks in
well, he kind of crawls, I think.
He does crawl, and then he kind of walks in one scene, but then again... Who knows? It might have been Jareth's magic that did it.
Well, I thought they were holding him up while he kind of... I don't know, but he's not... What age do kids usually start talking?
Definitely not 2.
Oh, okay. So I guess maybe...
people Google it. 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm never around kids long enough to know, so... I guess he's around 2. And then we have Hoggle. So, I mean, the big 3 are Hoggle, the goblin... Ludo, where the wild things are, wild thing, and then Sir Didymus. When I was a kid, I thought it was a dog. Apparently, he's a fox.
No.
What did you think he was?
I thought he might have been a dog too.
But then I thought about it, and I was like, is this a Goofy Pluto kind of thing? Like whenever Mickey and Minnie would go on vacation, and Goofy would walk Pluto. Little odd. But I think people have told me, no, he's a fox, stupid. That's why he's riding a dog. I'm like, oh.
Well, he's red hue to him, that brownish reddish hue to his fur, which is kind of fox-like, I guess.
Yeah.
With the pointed ear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess, yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I guess he is a fox. I'm looking at him now. I know you can't see him, but
Does
yeah.
he have whiskers? Does he have whiskers?
No.
Because I think... I could be completely wrong, but I think foxes might have whiskers.
It becomes like a mustache, like this white mustache, almost. So like very like D'Artagnan-esque. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Hoggle's the main companion on this journey. The guy she meets first. First time we see him, he's peeing. Then he's trying to exterminate all these fairies. And then he lets her into the labyrinth. And he's an angry sumbitch, isn't he?
The short man complex, that's how it is.
Oh, you know about that. And he loves his jewels. He has a lot of jewels. He collects jewels. And I guess he's the gatekeeper is his job. Because it seems like some of the goblins have jobs in the labyrinth, while others are kind of like just roaming around. So and then we have also Ludo, who is... How would you describe Ludo?
I'd describe him as Snuffleupagus, except he can walk on 2 feet.
That's a good. I never even thought about it like that. That's a great analogy.
Okay, I put it now.
There you go. You're on the spot. And then we have Sir Didymus, who we kind of spoke about a little bit. He's the kind of noble man who is in charge of letting people cross the bridge that leads to the. Well, I guess another part of the labyrinth of the journey. So, taking these 3 into consideration, tell me how you... I mean, do you feel like those 3 represent more than just what they are? Because the way I look at it is, I feel like each character, Hoggle, Ludo, and then Sir Didymus, all represent where Sarah's at that point in her journey. Like, Hoggle is cocky and angry and kind of hates everything. And that's kind of how Sarah was in the beginning. She's very... She tells him
the labyrinth's a piece of cake.
Yeah. And, while Hoggle knows it's not a piece of cake, poor guy, no one can get his name right. Hoggle, yes. He's the angry side, and just everything's bad and everything's against her and everything's against him. Then you have Ludo, which is like second act, where she's kind of doubting herself. She's been to the oubliette at this point, and comes back out through that cauldron, I believe, at this point, and now it's all jumble in my head. Which is really cool in the art department. The cauldron, remember they're going up the ladder and they come out. If you look, they don't come out. There's a space between what the cauldron's on and the ground, and they don't come through that. Which,
correct.
Yeah, and I love that like artistic detail of how this is a world onto itself, and it's like, it's bigger on the inside, so to speak. Have a Doctor Who reference. I love that. That aside.
It's on 4 legs and it's raised up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a platform, but it's raised up onto the platform by 4 legs.
Yeah.
And you literally don't see them going underneath from underground. They're literally coming out of the cauldron itself.
Did you always notice that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you could see that it's not, and I think that was done on purpose. I don't think.
I think definitely, yeah. I think it was very intentional. But anyway, digressing back to Snuffy Jr. And I think, in the second act, she's a little bit humbled. She's a little bit kind of opening herself up to the different kinds of personalities in the Labyrinth and kind of doubting herself. And that cowardly lion kind of character is what Ludo represents. And then by the time we meet Sir Didymus, she's kind of found her strength. She's found her bravery, and she's still ready to take on the world, even though she can't do it by herself. But it's like that honorable side of her reconciling with all the other sides, and that's when they all kind of come together as one team and unit. So that's how I never really noticed that until like way into adulthood, where it's like, wow, I feel like these characters are all very representative and perfect. Hoggle's Act 1, Ludo's Act 2, Didymus is Act 3. What do you think about that?
Well, I feel like, Hoggle's a plant, right? He's literally put there to prevent her from succeeding. He's put there to discourage her. He's put there to bring her back to the beginning, and that discourages her just to be, going back to the beginning after wasting all that time. So that's why he was planted there to do all that. Mm-hmm. Now, I think he didn't fall in love as in like a relationship, but more as a friendship. Because he said he didn't have any friends, he didn't know anybody. And we got to assume Sarah went to school and all that stuff, but, you kind of assume she had friends, but who knows? Because she always had everything in her room. Yeah. So maybe, in that sense, what you're saying, he's kind of like her as well. Yeah. So he's always looking for this friendship, but he assumes he's ugly and nobody wants to talk to him and all this, and nobody wants to be his friend. Mm-hmm. When she gets to Ludo, I just felt like, he's this big giant monster, but he's a teddy bear. He's nice. He's a nice guy, mm-hmm. And he instantly is like, "You're my friend. I'm your friend." Yeah, and he's thankful that she helped him and saved him, and he doesn't say it, but he basically owes her. Mm-hmm. So he's an instant bond. I do see what you're coming from with that. I never looked at it that way. Mm-hmm. That it like broke it up into basically her relation, how she was, and the different parts in the movie and where she was. Ambrosius though is chicken, right? the dog, yeah. But I think that's more comic relief than anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree with you. Now that you bring it up, I see your point. Yeah. That he, that's where she's kind of like, I'm ready to kick down the door and take this on. And and in the end, she says that I got to do this by myself, guys. I got to take him on by myself.
Yeah.
And she thanks them for all the help.
Yeah.
If you need us.
Should you need us? Yeah. So and then we have, kind of bring it back to Ambrosius. As great as the art is, and I'll show you some of the art that came with this special edition. God, they did a terrible job between the real life dog and the fake dog. I have the two images up, and clearly the real dog has like gray hair in his eyes, and the fake dog, it looks nothing alike. And for a film that's so detail oriented, who dropped the ball on this?
Maybe the original one went up in flames or something. Who knows? You know how stuff doesn't go as planned.
Very true. Very true. But I don't know. That just, that's like, I think it's one of those things that literally everybody notices. So, but the rest of the art is great. And what's great about these, and like I know, like you see them down here, but I'm going to show the camera up here. These like little like art. You can see the art and the inception of what happened with how the art department went about doing things. I'll show it to you here while I show the audience
Yeah.
this one, and it's so cool and detail oriented and beautiful. And you just see a few of them right here. I mean, the art is just absolutely stunning. Oh, I hit the mic. And then even some characters that I don't even know if I mean, I guess this guy. I guess a lot of these characters you saw in the batch of them, but then there's some like this guy. I don't even recognize him from the film. I have to go back like looking at them.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, is that? No, that's. I was gonna say that looks almost like the robot that they fight, or the the armored.
Oh yeah.
Thing, but
no, I don't know though. And then like this cool dude, like you see how they like worked on like the cranial structure and I mean such detail and love went into every aspect of this. You can see the different parts of the brain and whatnot. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, the craftsmanship. And I feel like something so lost, especially nowadays where you can fudge things with CGI. I know, a lot of people still do it, but then you have an actual cell, like a blown up cell of the film, which is pretty cool, of Sarah with the chill down. So this is just part of my little collection of. I'm glad I got a frame of Sarah because I'm still not over my 7-year-old crush with her. But smitten. So did you have a crush on her when you were a kid? I don't remember.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
She was the best. And then I remember she was in this movie called, I think, Risky Business. Not Risky Business, that's Tom Cruise. Something where she was living in this, like, Target kind of store. I can't remember. I just remember, like, oh, my God, that's Sarah. And she's, like, all grown up, and she looks amazing. Anyway, I digress. The garbage ladies, the trash ladies. This kind of connects back to my theory about how Jareth was in love with Sarah. My interpretation of them, I think this is everyone I've ever spoken to doesn't see it this way. My interpretation of the garbage ladies is that this is what happens because you like in 9 hours and 23 minutes, you'll be mine. I always figured Toby was going to become a goblin and be owned by the Goblin King, ruled by the Goblin King as a goblin, and that all the girls who had sent their kid brothers and sisters to the Labyrinth, he wooed them, and you saw them when they were in their prime in the ball, and then after the ball, she breaks out and she falls from grace down into the garbage, where she meets and in the letterbox version you can see them, not so much in the version we grew up on, more than one garbage lady. There are several garbage ladies, and they're all carrying all their belongings and all their goods, and they're looking to reclaim what they once were, be it to Jareth or to themselves, and that they all fall from grace when Jareth's done with them, and they live here in their own little recreated rooms, and they just wither away. And that they all bring each other down like crabs in a bucket, and that's what they were trying to do to her. That she was about to be discarded. So I look at them as being the old, lack of a better term, lovers or playthings or infatuants of Jareth. Have you ever looked at it in that way, or just like?
Do you feel that they're they attempted to beat the Labyrinth and they failed?
Yes.
They were the one that lost.
Yes.
I mean, there's a Goblin City, so there's got to be different people to help with the city. You could see people closing the shutters, and I think she's part of the area. I don't look at it that way. I also look at it as she's another deterrent. Everything in the Labyrinth is there to deter her, to make her fail. Hoggle was too, but he turned. To, I don't think Ludo was there. Obviously, Ludo wasn't there, and Didymus wasn't there to deter her. Mm-hmm. It was just she happened to run into those people. But everyone else kind of was a deterrent in a sense. The guy with the weird head. So I think the garbage lady, she was obviously she was another deterrent. She's trying to get her. If she was a former lover of Jareth, why would she try to get her to stay and forget everything? You need to
misery loves company.
Oh, look at Teddy Bear or whatever, or Boo Bear or whatever she said.
Yeah.
Teddy Bear. So why do you think that if she was, I guess.
I guess because maybe they somehow knew she had gotten the closest, and because I mean, what happened to all the girls who never beat the labyrinth? You know, she shouldn't have gotten this far already. You know, did he just send them all home? I mean, I guess some of them did because he does offer to send her back to the start of the labyrinth, send her home.
I think they all gave up.
And you think he sent them all home?
Yeah, I think they gave up. You know, he said, give up, go home, go in your room, play, forget everything.
See, I think some he sent home. I think some he sent when he sent them home. He sent them to the trash bin where all their rooms are. I think it was a trick. I think it was part of him being evil, to a certain extent, and I think other ones bought his spiel about let me rule you, let me love you, and I will be your slave, and you can have anything you want, and then he eventually discarded them. I don't know. I just feel like there's more significance behind them, and like maybe it's me because I always want to have a deeper backstory for each character, and I just feel like meeting women in the labyrinth is exceptionally rare. You almost only encounter boys in there. You know, all the goblins, like I said, like boys and whatnot. You see the fairies, and then the garbage ladies. So where are they coming from? Not with counting these, you know, the ball, the crystal ball.
Yeah, which was odd because aside from Jared, Sarah, and Toby, the people in the dance in the crystal ball are the only humans, right?
Yeah, that are in the labyrinth. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I guess. And that's part of the fantasy of it. It doesn't have to have a backstory. It doesn't have to have anything going on. I guess.
And it doesn't have to make sense either.
Yeah. Yeah. And then going back to other humans in it, which this is probably for me the prime example of looking at something when I was a kid and looking at it now. I always thought the stepmother was such a bitch. Such a bitch. But now I'm like, Sarah was a spoiled little shit. The stepmother was just like, we go out very rarely. We ask you once in a while to help. Did you look at her in a certain way back then as opposed to now, especially as a parent?
Yeah, I agree. First time I thought, oh, okay, this is the stepmom, and you automatically assume evil stepmom, and, you know, the father doesn't know any better, and all this. Oh, we'll be back, don't worry, not a big deal. I'm going to do with her, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. And then now watching it, I'm just like, no, just help them out. They want to go out to dinner.
Yeah, like if anything, the father's like the inept one. He's like, oh, I'll talk to my princess. And then he doesn't really give a shit. He's just like, we're just leaving. Goodbye. And so it's funny how that film, and I think they probably knew doing that. Like kids would look at her as the evil stepmother, and then adults are going to look at her like Sarah's a spoiled little brat. So, and I like that we can grow with that film. Speaking of moms and fiction, did you know that Dr. Beverly Crusher from Star Trek: The Next Generation was the Muppet choreographer for this film?
Oh, wow.
Yes. Wow. Cheryl McFadden is she's credited. Obviously in Star Trek she's Gates McFadden, so I believe her full name is Cheryl Gates McFadden. She was a coordinator for the Muppets on a number of because she's a dancer, on I believe the Great Muppet Caper. I know definitely the Muppets Take Manhattan, Labyrinth, not sure about the Dark Crystal, but she was the choreographer for those Muppets, and then of course she choreographed the ball scene as well, and that's just a fun little tidbit. Obviously, as a nerd, you know, there's the Enterprise D, and I'm sure you didn't know that.
Not at all.
The Chill Downs. Are they a little racist with their fleeting Jamaican accents back and forth?
I mean, I'm not looking at it at that angle as a kid. Now I'm not looking at it that angle either. I mean, I don't think. I mean, are you?
Come on, little lady.
I mean, who voiced them?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I think probably yeah.
By a bunch of Jamaicans, and maybe they were. I mean, I don't know.
But it's the same thing of like Jar Jar Binks, who was voiced by Ahmed Best. But I mean, it was Misa very very little bit very muchy, and Wadu, who was very the Italian stereotype. I mean, that's the Phantom Menace and whatnot. But it almost, I don't know, and it's weird because I feel like their voices, even though it's only like a 5-minute scene, their voices change, their accents change through that whole scene from like having no accent and then all of a sudden being like having a heavy island Caribbean accent. It's weird.
And there's 4 of them, right? 4 or 5 of them?
I think there's actually probably 4 or 5, like 5 or 6 main ones, and I think probably like 6 main ones or so.
There was 6 of them jumping around?
I think so, yeah, because in this image right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, on this screen. Maybe it is 5 or 6.
Remember, they separated their body and they did different dances, and one was doing literally like a wheelbarrow.
I mean, of all the special effects in the film, this one, watching it now, is so obviously, I believe, blue screen at the time. Yeah. But, I mean, it's very much, I believe they use a lot of, I believe they use that puppetry technique that for the life of me eludes me, where it's like the puppets in dark clothing or in blue clothing, all like wrapped head to toe in blue, spandex, and it has like the poles that connect, so it's like not marionette but from behind, which is what they used for C-3PO in the Phantom Menace, and for a lot of the Lion King on Broadway, the live Lion King show and whatnot. So, do you know what I'm talking about at all?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't remember the name either. And I know it's not. You're totally not thinking motion capture. That's completely different.
No, that's completely different. Yeah.
Way before the out.
What was that?
Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from. I said this movie was way before that came out.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
wait, what? So before what came out?
Motion capture.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they had really crude motion capture with, I believe, Tron and actually the Lord of the Rings animated movies. They had like a really crude version, but it wasn't like as we know it today with like Gollum and Thanos and whatnot. But yeah, this was all like done pretty much in camera, which meant it had to be on blue screen. And watching it back now, it's like the special effect I think that holds up the least. But I kind of appreciate the fact that they haven't gone back and like tried to redo it to trick us. Like I appreciate that. You know, it's a product of its time, of the 80s. But that scared you? I know it scares a lot. I know a few adults that it's still kind of like uneasy for them.
Yeah, it's a bit scary because they're playing around and joking around, and they're like trying to take off her head, Yeah. Because she got scared and threw their head away, and he's like, "How about I take off your head?"
Yeah. Does Bella get scared about that?
I mean, I looked over at her. I don't think she didn't really look that scared, but I mean, I should have asked her maybe. Did that scare you? But
to try to take off her head.
She seemed fine.
She might scream if you try to take off her head. I've tried to do that to people, and they hit me. So here's something that doesn't make sense. The bollock of eternal stench, otherwise known as what yours and my bathroom smells like about 3 to 4 times a day. If you dip so much of a toe in it, you'll stink for the rest of your life. But when Ludo summons the rocks, they all step on it because it comes out from under the bog. Makes no damn sense.
The rocks are wet.
I don't look at it as being one of those things where it's like, oh, it always changes in Labyrinth. I just feel like that's like, I mean, okay, Sarah can take off her shoes, but Ambrosius and Ludo can't take off their paws. A little weird.
Yeah, it would have been nice if, because the one rock, when she's hanging and the one rock comes, it rolls so that the whole thing is covered as it gets to her. Mm-hmm. Maybe if it would have rolled and stopped and then
well, some just come out straight from the bog.
Yeah. They're still wet. It should be wet, but, and then as you step on it.
That's what I have to say about that. Now it's time for Finish the Quote. A quote that many people have argued about over the years, the bird and the head. So when he says, it's a stimulating being in your... What is he saying?
I thought he said being your hat. And some people probably think he said being your head.
Yeah.
But he had an accent,
Yeah. He was a weird old guy. When I was a kid, I thought it was head. Because I wanted to believe that it was some weird being that, like, this bird somehow got infused into his head, and that's why they couldn't separate. But I think as I got older, I realized it's a stimulating being a hit.
Yeah.
Which, how weird is that thing? When you really think about it and you really look at it, the bird's got no legs, no arms, no nothing. It's just a fucking neck and a beak.
Who knows if he has other hats like that?
Maybe. How's that for wisdom? No, it's something like that. Another one that I know back in the 80s was like, oh my God, was when she's using her lipstick to draw the arrows and the little guy comes up and searching around. What does he say about your mother?
Your mother is a freakity. Or something like that. Oh, your mother is a freakity.
I think he's saying, your mother's a friggin' aardvark.
I don't think it said aardvark.
I don't know. We have to look that up. Another thing in the comments. Tell us what you thought about Jareth and Sarah's relationship. Tell us what you thought about if it's a hat or a head. And tell us what this little bastard said when he flipped the rocks around, the stones around. Because, I don't know, it always like, your mother's a friggin' aardvark.
I don't think he says friggin' aardvark.
He's not? And
it sounds like he has like an Italian accent, and he's saying your mother is a freakity.
A freakity. Your mother's a meatball, so they suck. And here's yeah.
I've heard it before, so.
And here's the ultimate question, which we talked about earlier. We're going to get into. During Dance Magic, he kicks that chickeny looking, because there's always chickens around. If you ever notice, in the throne room, but he kicks this goblin. And I guess looking at it now, maybe it does come down. Damn, it does come down. My whole life, I thought it was still up on the ceiling. You know why? Because when we were kids, it was for the square televisions.
Yeah.
And now, damn it.
You just watched the scene and you see it coming down?
I have a GIF on the screen right now. You can't see it, but for the audience can see it. It's a GIF of him kicking it, and damn, it does. You were right. It comes down the fountain or whatever.
Said that to you.
This is like the day I found out it was Dagobah, not Dagomah. It's just like I feel like it's like the day I found out Santa Claus wasn't real. Damn.
What?
Santa's not real.
I'm in the basement.
Oh. She wouldn't pay attention. She'd be like, yeah, it is. Please. You don't know any better. So, I mean,
exactly. Before
we go into our final review, I just want to say, one of us always tells the truth.
And one of us always lies.
Oh, he always lies. What a lie. So.
But that's confusing in itself.
It is.
Because you're assuming they're both telling the truth right there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like.
If the one that says one of us always tells the truth is telling the truth, the other one is always lying, that's saying they're always lying? Wait, it doesn't make sense.
It's all right. I'm useless.
There should have been a sign that said that.
Well, that's the riddle.
Them both saying that.
Well, let's try to figure that out. If the one telling the truth is telling the truth, then obviously that's the one telling the truth. If that's the one telling a lie, then the whole thing is a lie. But then the other one could be telling the truth. I don't know if it's solvable.
Oh, I thought you were frozen.
No, sorry. That's another thing in the comments. Can you figure out that riddle of one of us always tells the truth and one of us always lies? Tell us that.
For a true riddle, there should be a sign or something that says that, because once one person says it and that one's telling the truth, then if one person's saying one of us always tells the truth and one of us always lies, then that's the person telling the truth.
Yeah, but if they're lying, then the whole thing's a lie.
The person that's lying can't say, and one of us is lying. You're telling the truth. I believe you that one of you is lying. So, I mean, you do have to ask with the way she asked. You know, if you were him, what would your answer be? That's how you get that riddle. But I think she chose correctly, except when she chose down. Because she wouldn't be able to have a choice of up or down.
I think no matter what door she chose, she was going to go down.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So I think the riddle itself is a sabotage. It's designed not to be solvable. Anyway, now for our final analysis. Bals, my good friend, my brother, does Labyrinth hold up to modern viewing?
Yeah, I agree. So I agree that it does. You know, it's a fantasy movie. It takes it takes you out of real life into this teenage girl who's just spoiled and just wants to not watch her baby brother, and she can't take his crying, and she gets pulled into this fantasy, this labyrinth. I completely think it holds up. It's great. I mean, the fact, of course, you have to realize that they don't have phone. I mean, they could have, if it was done today, you could easily say that she was too young to not have a phone, or maybe her evil stepmother took it away from her. I think it holds up. I totally think it holds up.
I do not, actually.
What?
No, well, I'm going to explain why, and it's not a diss towards the film itself. I think the film is still brilliant, ahead of its time, and a remarkable piece of fiction. Obviously, special effects aside, the Muppets, the animatronics, they still hold up beautifully. It's when you bring in the computer aspect to it that obviously it was limited in its time. Like we said, the chill downs. Computer off.
Thank you for using WebMD. Goodbye. Do you want to rate WebMD?
No. Son of a bitch. Anyway.
Reorder the cream.
Shut up. Anyway. Anyway, it's when you bring in the CGI that there's an issue with the owl and some of the crystal ball stuff and the chill downs and whatnot. But the stairs, a little bit dated, but still overall amazing. The story itself, I think, is great, but could it be made today the way it was made? Absolutely not, because modern storytelling won't let it happen. And I think it's the kind of film that those who are truly, and hopefully they're few and far between, sold on, bought into this modern way of perfection storytelling where there's a woman protagonist, a girl protagonist, will not want their kids seeing this film because it's too mature. The whole movie, she's bitching about things being unfair. And what does the movie do? It doesn't tell you, no, actually things are fair, and it shows you how it's fair and how everyone has a participation trophy and everything's okay and you're going to get your way and be positive, put it out there in the universe. It says, no, life is unfair. This labyrinth is unfair. The world is kind of built around you to make you have to overcome it. It's not going to hand you anything. It's thought-provoking. It really makes you think about choices, not just about the riddles, but about how the landscape is ever changing. She should have kept on going down that way, or one of us always tells the truth, one of us always lies, or the knockers, or you see these people and these characters in these unfair scenarios. Like your whole existence is being a door that on occasion gets knocked every couple of 100 years, or I haven't said it in such a long time. It is kind of a scary film. And for kids, for the age it was made for, you don't show kids like that kind of stuff anymore. Kids don't see scary stuff anymore. Going back to Sesame Street. Sesame Street now is like so pandered to the children now to make everything so happy. Where back in the day, you had Oscar actually tell Big Bird, Santa Claus isn't real. You can't do that stuff nowadays. And so, making the kids think, they don't like to make kids think anymore. If indeed you don't agree with it, but some people, including myself, had that kind of weird, like, oh God, this is kind of a taboo love kind of thing. Even the mere hint at that nowadays would not be allowed on screen. The hint at that would be just forbidden, taboo. You would definitely have it be overly clear that he's a bad absentee father figure kind of thing. He represents her father or something. And again, Sarah has flaws. They want Mary Sue's nowadays that have no flaws. Sarah is a three-dimensional character that goes on the classic arc that Luke went on, that all those characters, that Martin McFly went on, all those people go on, who start off one way and through their journey come out of it better, stronger, and a more well-rounded person. and they overcome the odds, and they have to use their brain and face their fears and acknowledge and accept their imperfections and do something with it. And that's just not how storytelling is in the 21st century anymore. And that's sad, and that's messed up. And hopefully the pendulum will swing back around to being films more like Labyrinth, moving for children moving forward. So while I think the film is as close to perfection as a children's film can be, I do not think it holds up to modern day viewing. And I hope that we can revisit this in 5 to 10 years and I can change that opinion, because I hope, like I said, the pendulum swings back. Rant over.
I mean, I hear you. I agree, with what you're saying about modern day movies. I think maybe because it's the diamond in the rough, the different movie compared to all the other movies, maybe if they did release it now, it would get some traction.
I hope so.
Who knows?
I hope so, because it's one of my favorite films, and it's amazing. I love the film. I really, really do. And hats off to everyone involved. Too bad, Jim Henson's gone and David Bowie's gone, because they had talked about making a sequel right up to Bowie's death, which would have been amazing. That everyone, Sarah, Jennifer Connelly, and David Bowie wanted to come back, and there was talk of different directors, possibly Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son, directing it. And in a way, don't go back, don't ruin it, but it would have been nice, because it's definitely a classic, and it's definitely one that's beloved by millions the world over. And thanks to people like you, you had the show for the end. Thanks to people like you, the next generation will see it and love it as well. So thank you for doing your fatherly duties.
No problem. I try to show her good movies.
Yes. All right. Yes, Hannah, baby girl. So anyway, that concludes our Does It Hold Up review of Labyrinth, 1986. If you have not seen it, I highly... Oh, good God, baby girl. I love you. Sorry. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you seeing it. Okay, good. We're still recording. And I imagine it'll eventually be on Disney Plus, because it's, Jim Henson stuff is owned by Disney. And if not, just go out there and see it, and let us know what you think. Any last words, Balls?
I was just thinking, I think it was on Amazon Prime.
Ooh.
I think I scooped it up on, well, not to, to watch. I think it was on Prime Video. It was either Prime Video. I don't think it was Hulu. I think it was Prime Video that we watched it. It's there. Definitely check it out if Disney Plus isn't having it. Any last words? Stop complaining that, like Sarah, that it's unfair.
Life is very unfair, but yeah.
Yes, we all know.
All right. Well, thank you, my best friend, and thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, all the shit you're not going to do. Be good to each other, and go to sleep. Right, Hannah? Right.